So the most important thing is, what paper am I going to use? So I decided to take a paper that's really simple, white, with a bit of texture, like very matte. I don't want it to be shiny, so it's an uncoated paper, because my design is going to be mostly illustrations. So we're not really going to see the paper anywhere, but maybe your final project is a lot more minimalistic in terms of design. You can find everything on the internet, but I quite like to go and touch the paper, see how it is, and you can always ask advice, which is great because then you're talking with professionals and they can tell you if you can print or not on certain type of paper, if it's fragile, if it's good for food. If you're doing a label on a bottle, you might want something fairly thin, but if you're doing a box, maybe you want something a bit thicker. It also depends on the product that you're packaging. So that's the moment where protecting the product is important. So there's not only being pretty, but there's also a paper that's going to not break. If you have a product that's quite heavy, you need something that's thick enough so that it can hold it together. The one I chose is fairly basic. It's 250 grams. So it means it's fairly thick, but it's still like a paper for like when you print an illustration. It's not cardboard. So imagine you're thinking of producing 10 of the packaging. For now, maybe don't buy right away all the quantity that you need. Maybe buy one sample of each of the paper. You can choose a couple options so that when you go to the printer, you can also ask him what he thinks is the best option. Because for example, with risography, you can't print on brilliant paper because the ink will never dry. Another paper that I've had to find is a paper that kind of gives you the impression of a mirror. So it's not so difficult to find, but I need to make sure to find a printer that can print that kind of paper because it's very brilliant and it might be a little bit more difficult. So because I'm doing a personal project, I went to the local shop, but if you're working for a client, you might also be able to look at some of the big paper brands, such as Fedrigoni or G.F. Smith or Avery Dennison. They do a lot of packaging. On a lot of their websites, something that's really amazing is usually you can find the texture that you can download for free, so it's really good to do mock-ups. And you can also order samples a lot of the time. If not, you can always put yourself in contact with one of the commercial and they will also help you choosing the papers. One of the important things that you need to decide when you're working with packaging is how you're going to produce it. So it can be screen printing, it can be letterpress, although that might be a little pricey for a personal project. It can be risography. I'm going to go with digital printing. Finding a printer that really will care about your project, will put the time, can be a bit difficult. Don't be afraid to really explain to the printer what your project is about, what you want the result to be like, to ask if the paper is going to work. Don't be afraid because maybe they're not going to tell you if it's not going to work and then you're going to have the result and it's not what you want.